Da, da, theme song. Da, da, da.
Welcome back to Wine on an Empty Stomach.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday night or a Sunday morning. You are in Perth, Australia, as our guest is. Or is it Sunday? Is it 12 ahead or 12 behind?
Ahead.
Okay, so yeah.
He's in the future.
It's in the future. Tell us what happens next. I'm Tanya.
I am always turning down my YouTube. Nikki. Welcome back.
For previous episodes, find us at thousandeyespodcast.com. On YouTube, you can find us at 1,000 Eyes in One Podcast. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are 1,000 Eyes in One on Instagram and Facebook, 1,000 Eyes Pod on Blue Sky, and if you're interested in our Speculative Fiction Book Club, follow Wine on an Empty Stomach on Instagram.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking Cabernet Sauvignon out of my skeleton glass to match my skeleton dress.
I'm drinking a cocktail that I just made up that's got a bunch of herbally things in it with bourbon. Nice. Out of a fancy glass for, Yelma.
All right, let's bring on.
Oh, wait, what are we doing?
We're talking about Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon by Wole Talabi, and he is here to join us.
Boo, boo, boo.
Hi. We need a real air horn.
We do. You live with the DJ. We got to make that happen.
Yeah, I need an air horn.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of air horns, trumpets, whatever nice,
Oh my God.
Music.
You can teach Donut to give us fanfare.
Oh, right. My son is going to start learning trumpet.
Yeah, he can wear his Halloween costume and we'll just like pan to him and he'll like bop boop doo and then that'll be it.
He'll do what?
Boop, boop,
Or if you wanted an even cooler idea, there was a concert just outside my house because I live in front of a park. Last weekend, Pitbull, Wiz Khalifa. But you know who was the star of the show? Lil Jon. And you know what you should get? Clips of Little John just shouting, yeah. And let's go whenever it gets to right.
Yeah, we could do that. And as long as we mention that it's coming, I think we can get away with fair use. Right, Tanya?
No, that's not how it works, but
damn it. I'm going to figure it out and nail it one day. I'm always like, fair use at myjob.com. Can I do that? And they're like, no, that's not how fair use works, but nice try. A for effort. I'm trying to give people the credit where they do. Yeah. Credit's due. Everybody deserves to be credited.
Right. Should I tell you what I'm drinking?
Yes, please.
I am having lemongrass and ginger tea because, as you said, I'm living in the future and it is 6 a.m. And as much as I would like to start drinking at this time, and I have done that before, I don't think it's wise to do that today. I also slept late. So sleep late, wake up early, start drinking. Bad combination.
Sounds like college.
Yeah, right? I was going to say that sounds like a great way to fall down the stairs or something. Tell us about yourself, Wole.
Oh, right. My name is Wole Talabi. I am from Nigeria, currently living in Perth, Australia, which you may or may not know is the most isolated major city in the world. We're about 5 to 6 hours away from almost anywhere else. So that's nice and fun. I am an engineer, writer, editor, mostly in that order. And I am the author of Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon, which is the book we'll be talking about today, which you might recognize from its alternate cover, which is behind me, which is the hardcover. And this is the mass market paperback that will be in the US stores in November 4th. It's already available elsewhere around the world.
Nice.
Oh, we're late.
So yeah, that's okay.
It's because we live in the past.
So this book, I read it in 2024. I think I checked it out of the library and then I kept having to renew it because I was reading something else. And I finally got to it and I was like, I can't believe I waited. I blew through it so quickly. And I was so excited about it that I began my campaign of harassment for Nikki. So since like around, I think March or so of 2024 is when I began my campaign of harassment. And now
I finally read it 3 times.
I also read it 3 times.
And I listened to the audiobook.
I
think
after I checked it out of the library and finished it, then I purchased the ebook to read it again, and then I purchased the audiobook so I could listen to it, and then I purchased the hardcover because I was like, I should have the hardcover. It feels right. I always get all 3 of my favorites.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Tanya was like, we read lots of books. We're like, oh my God, you should read this. Oh my God, you should read this. But like when there's one that we're like, stop reading everything else. Read this now. And she kept saying that to me. But similarly, I had a long queue and I kept like renewing it. And then I finally was like, okay, I had it on my Kindle. I was in bed reading. And I was like, you didn't tell me there was a succubus. And she's like, bitch, yes, I did. She's like, yes, I did. And I was like, okay.
Because I knew that would appeal to her.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character?
Do I have in the book?
Mm-hmm.
Officially, no. But just because it's us here. I do actually. I think Oloron's like my favorite character. Well, Oloron kind of. Okay, no, I lied. I have 2 favorite characters. Oloron is in the book the character I think would be my favorite as a main character or mainish character. Just because he's this enigmatic old ancient god that's kind of pulling strings, but you don't really know what he's getting at and why. But he's a bit playful, but can suddenly turn serious all at once. And in a sense, it kind of reminded me of when I was writing him, I almost had my grandfather in mind, who was almost exactly like that. He was, boisterous, playful, laughing, and then he would suddenly turn deadly serious. And yeah, that was kind of the vision I had in my head.
I was triggered.
And I like characters like that. I like characters that can flip on a dime. They're interesting to imagine. They're interesting to write and describe. Probably that's why I said I lied, and I kind of have 2 favorite characters, because my second favorite character, even though I don't, he only appears in like 2 major scenes in the book, is actually Eshu Elegba, the
trickster,
the Orisha, or the god of mysteries, crossroads. He's supposed to be a trickster god. Basically, he is the god of, in Yoruba traditional epistemology, he's kind of the Orisha in charge of chance, fate, probability, crossroads, decision making, things like that. And I like the character just because he, again, like Orisha, you don't really know if what he's doing is meant to be, trick or treat. We're almost at Halloween. He's trick or treat personified, essentially. And I enjoy writing those 2 characters, Oloron and Eshu Elegba. And you can kind of sense that there is more to the book. And I am planning a sequel. I am planning a sequel. I still need to write it, but it's all there. It's outlined. But you can almost sense throughout the book that what comes next, right, in the larger tapestry, those 2 are scheming.
Yeah.
Right? Between the 2 of them, you can almost, it's kind of like, are they not? Are they not? Oloron, towards the end, it becomes more clear whether he is or isn't. But Eshu Elegba, you're like, I don't know what this guy's game is. And I love that. I love that kind of characterization.
I will say, one of the things I appreciated was that it didn't read like a book that's just setting up for a sequel. You know what I mean? Like it felt like a book that the story was complete, but then suddenly you realize, wait a minute, we just built something else. And I got so excited when I got to the end.
Yeah, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, but wait a second, that didn't get resolved. Or wait. And we're like, wait a second, is there going to be a sequel? And we're like, yeah, our brains just started spinning. Because like I clocked that the first time, but then the second time I was like, wait, what's going to happen with the god that got tossed out the window? Like, what's that? Like, what the fuck? We never talked about that again, you know? And I love that. And like Tanya said, it's not just table setting for something that's come, because like if it did, and I would have been able to walk away from it and be like, yo, I kind of like that not everything was like neatly tied up in a bow. Like, you know, it gives me curiosity to continue to explore like the Orisha and learn more about that.
Yeah, I am very I'm very cautious when it comes to sequels. And I personally do not like, you know, the huge multi-volume 7-book epic. I don't have the patience for that. I have traumatic childhood stories that explain why I am like that, and I'm not going to go into them.
I was about to say, you better spill.
Unless you want to hear them.
We want to hear it. You know what? Okay. Hold that thought for a second. And I'm laughing because Tanya and I were at Comic-Con, and we got really lucky because like it was the hour that it was closing and they had all these booksellers, and one of them was like 50% off all books and you get 2 for free. And we're like, yes. And I picked up a book that sounded really interesting. And my reaction is always like, oh, fuck, is this part of a series? It was the 19th book in the series.
I put that book down so fast.
It's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
I slammed it on the table.
She's like, it's okay. You can read the other ones. I was like, nah.
You cannot catch up unless I break both my legs. I cannot catch up on 18 books to get to this one. And I say unless I break my legs, so that means I'm stuck and I have nowhere to be. So that would be a broken leg read. And
we do not play that. I mean, look, I grew up in Nigeria where, you know, I don't think I walked into a proper bookstore until I was maybe 18 or 19. I got most of my books from my parents' shelves or from, you know, the famous bookstore called The Guy Under the Bridge or The Guy by the Side of the Road with a bag of books.
We have that. The guy on 125th.
Yeah. It's just a guy that has a bunch of like secondhand books available for cheap. And that's what we could afford. And that's, to me, those were the booksellers I first encountered. The thing is, they don't have the categorization. They don't have shelves, nothing. Mm-hmm. So essentially you have whatever the guy with the bag of books has in the bag. Those are your options. So many times.
I was going to ask real quick. What were you most like when you like because I know like you're gonna tie this thread together, but like I'm curious to know, like you're going through the bag, what are the things that drew you to be like, okay, this might be the one?
Right. So the guy would just show up by the side of the road, spread all the books out on like a mat or a cloth in front of him. And what usually drew me to books were like cool titles. I'm not so much a cover image person as I am a cool book title person. A great book title would draw me in. So I was usually drawn to books with interesting titles. But then sometimes some copies of these books that they were so secondhand that there was no cover, right? Like sometimes the book had been ripped. You could see, you know, someone's signature had been dedicated to someone who was 20 years old. Anyway, so yeah, I was drawn to primarily titles, maybe covers sometimes. And then usually what would happen was I'd just pick up a book that seemed really interesting. I would flip maybe somewhere to the middle of it, read one paragraph, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I want to know. And then I'll buy it from the guy. And very often I would read the book and then realize it is either like halfway through, it is either the second or the third or the fourth book in the series. And I'm like, shit, clearly I am missing context here. And then it would end. And I was like, oh, nothing was resolved either. So now I've just encountered this interesting world with interesting characters, but I have no context for what happened before. And I have no idea what happens next. And I cannot ask the guy on the road to go find me, you know, book 3 or book 1 in the series, because he's like, my dude, I have what I have. Like, you buy it or not. I have no formal sourcing. So after being traumatized by fantasy books where I read the 6th book without any idea what happened before or what came next, I just decided no more series ever. So I stopped reading fantasy books. The minute I hear your book is it a series? I'm not reading it. Standalone. I stopped cold. So when I was writing this novel, I wanted to write it in such a way that, the childhood version of me that bought books from the guy by the side of the road would be able to read it, have a great experience, maybe get the sense that there could be more, but wouldn't feel, the same way I felt like, shit, I really like this, but I can't go forward and I can't go back and I'm stuck. No, you can have a nice self-contained experience and move on. And if I do write a sequel, it will mostly be its own self-contained story. It will pick up on some things that happened before, obviously, but it's not going to be like, the focus is to resolve all the plot elements that came before. No, there's its own story happening. And in the background, things that were set up before will also get resolved in the background, background to background. And then we close the loop and move on.
It's interesting that you say that because as I'm thinking of the story, I'm like, well, if it turned out that there was a prequel and a sequel, like I could see it sitting somewhere in the middle. It is self-contained, but like it does, I could see potential for that too.
Speaking of prequels and sequels, I have a question for you. I just read Convergence Problems.
Ooh. Yes.
Saturday Song.
Yes.
Did you write Saturday Song before? Because Shigidi references the events of Saturday Song. And I read Shigidi first, so I didn't know, I kind of passed over it without really, it was just a memory of his. But by my third read, I had read Saturday Song. And I was like, I know, like he says it so quickly, like this thing that happened to him. And I was like, hold on a second. I know that story. So my question my question's for you. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
In this case, the egg. I think. If I'm tracking your metaphor.
I honestly don't know.
Essentially, I wrote Saturday Song after I wrote Shigidi. And it was actually the idea for that story kind of came to being as I was finalizing the novel. That line, that memory that he references, essentially, okay, so just to give a bit of background to those that may or may not have read the book.
I haven't read it yet.
Wait, Saturday Song or
no Saturday?
Saturday Song.
Yeah, Saturday Song.
Oh yeah, Saturday Song is it's a story. In Convergence Problems, it's a shortish story. But in the novel Shigidi, the memory that you're talking about is when Shigidi mentions in passing that, his job is Shigidi is a nightmare god. We should probably say that, right? He's the god of nightmares, and his entire job description is be ugly, give people nightmares, sometimes kill them. And he talks about when he used to do this, right, before he meets Norma and his life changes. He talks about once where he tried to kill someone in her sleep and she took him hostage, right, because she had access to some very powerful magic, right? And he just mentioned this in passing as something that has happened before to him. And I added that line a bit late because I like stories that imply a much larger history and a much larger world without necessarily showing you everything. It's why I like The Matrix, the first Matrix movie. It's why I like the first John Wick movie. It's exactly why those movies have no sequels, right? Because why would you need a sequel to a perfect self-contained movie that implies so much, and you don't need to flesh out the world and make us realize that it's maybe not as well put together as it was implied. So yes,
I see we agree on some things here.
Yeah. that was what I was trying to imply. But then that specific memory stuck in my head. That memory he referenced, that image of someone taking a god hostage while they're trying to kill them. It's like the meme. Somebody called the hospital, but not for me.
But not for I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I was writing another story. So Saturday Song is actually a sequel to two stories, because Saturday Song is a sequel to a story I wrote before called Wednesday's Story. And as I was writing that, I realized that the main character in Saturday's Song is exactly the kind of person that had so much rage at what had happened to her, that she's exactly the kind of person that would do anything she could to take a god hostage. So I was like, perfect. That's the memory. So let's just do it. Just make it Shigidi. So that's where that came from.
Okay, because I was definitely going back and forth like.
And for those that are not aware, Convergence Problems, I mean, Saturday Song is in Convergence Problems, but it's also available online at the Lightspeed magazine website, which is where it was first published. So yeah, you can check it out there if you enjoyed Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon and you want a little coda. You want to see your Shigidi friend again. Yeah, check out Saturday Song. He makes an appearance.
So I love stories about gods from like any kind of culture, like stories with the pantheon, like put it in my veins. What gave you, or what inspired you to make this pantheon a corporation?
Capitalism.
Yeah, fair.
No, this is one of those stories that had like many. It's like it's like a delta, where you have many rivers and streams meeting, and then they all flow into the ocean. And the book is the ocean, but there were many little streams that met in the delta of my brain. I don't know if this metaphor is working.
It is. But, yeah.
One of those streams for making the idea of the Yoruba pantheon as a corporation was actually two things. One was my own day job, which is I work as an engineer, but I work for a small segment of a much larger global multinational corporation. We're a technology company. There's so many parts of the company. Even I couldn't tell you what every part of the company does. So I'm very much aware of being, a small piece in this capitalist enterprise. And sometimes being part of the capitalist enterprise can be almost comedic, the way you have quarterly reviews and there's people in charge of things, and the way resources are distributed doesn't always make sense, and the way you get jobs and assignments don't always make sense, but you kind of have to do it because everybody needs to meet their KPIs and targets somehow. So, just observing all of that day in, day out, it just, the silliness of it sometimes just jumps out to me, and it's like, I want to capture that in a story. And then the more direct stream that led to me wanting to make the Orisha Spirit Company an actual global entity was I've always been interested in mythology, but Yoruba mythology specifically I was aware of, but I didn't know a lot of nuances of until I got into my teens. And I remember reading the first time I read about Shigidi. Shigidi is a minor god in the Yoruba pantheon. Like, there are people that are familiar with Yoruba mythology that have never heard of Shigidi because he's so minor, right? And I pulled him out of this old book that was written in the 1920s, I think, about Yoruba mythology. It's based off a series of interviews with traditional Babalawos. And there's this short paragraph on Shigidi. And it says, Shigidi is deified nightmare. And, they give a bit of description of what the Babalawos say Shigidi is supposed to be. This tiny little effigy that's made of wood or clay, with chalk marks on it, and it's supposed to be ugly. And you pray to Shigidi to give your enemies nightmares, or you pray to Shigidi to to prevent your enemies from sending you nightmares. And you could also kill your enemies in their sleep if you, make a big enough sacrifice to Shigidi. And he would go, give your enemies nightmares and then literally press the breath out of them while they're sleeping, and then they would die in their sleep. And I just remember reading this paragraph, and the entire time my brain was just going, so this god's entire job description is be ugly and give people nightmares. That must be the worst job in the world. And that specific reaction just stuck in my brain. It's like, this must be it must be the worst job in the world. And it's like, oh wait, what if it was actually a job? Like an actual job with a job description. So one of the first things I did when I was writing the character of Shigidi was I wrote his job description.
Oh, please tell us more.
Like someone was trying to hire, well, I'm not even sure I can find the document anymore, but I actually tried to write out, okay, job description, salary, job description, location, expectations, the way they would write things in when they're trying to hire someone. And I was just like, wow, this sucks. Like, what kind of company must this be? And then it all just unspooled from there as I thought, okay, shittiest job in the world, write out the job description. What kind of company does he work for? What kind of world does he exist in where this company exists that he can be part of? So it all blew up from this one thought I had. Worst job in the world. And then it started to build up like I was adding layers to an onion. So yeah, that's where that came from. Really.
You know, Tanya and I, we do spooky season every October. So on 30 Tuesdays, we pick, like, depending on how many Tuesdays, like either movies, some old time radio episode, an episode of The Twilight Zone, and then 2 movies or something that we do. And you know, we're big fans of Freddy Krueger. And we were watching Freddy's Nightmares the other day, and we were like, hold up, Shigidi. It's like, I mean, obviously Freddy, I mean, he didn't really apply. Whatever. We're not going to go into Freddy's backstory. But we're just like, look at that. Here's somebody who's like, he has made it his purpose to go out and give people nightmares and kill them in their sleep. And yeah, it was just a timely correlation.
I think Freddy Krueger, yeah, and when Wes Craven was writing Freddy Krueger, I think he was pulling from something that is in the collective unconscious, something you see in a lot of different cultures. It's not just Yoruba culture. Many cultures have this belief in some kind of entity or spirit or God that comes to you in your sleep, gives you nightmares, and can also kill you, right? Nights, I think it's because we all experience night terrors. Most people have experienced that sense of being awake but being unable to move.
Sleep paralysis, yeah,
sleep paralysis. And it almost feels like a living nightmare. And I think because that is common across human biology, almost every culture has developed myths and beliefs around what causes that, what could cause that. And I think what Wes Craven was doing was tapping into that. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Shigidi and Freddy Krueger are probably rooted in that same awareness of, you know, that fear that we all have of night terrors, sleep paralysis, and just, you know, being tormented and dying at night.
Freddy's like special forces. He's like the Navy SEALs. Like,
no, Freddy's a volunteer. Freddy's a volunteer. He does it for the love of the game.
I was just thinking about, like, what Shigidi, like, oh, here's, like, what if he had, like, it makes me think about recurring nightmares, you know, like what's a contract for a nightmare?
Yeah, see, that's something else I could have explored, right? What would you need to do to get Shigidi to keep returning to give your enemy nightmares? But you know, in the book, we don't dwell too much on his past. It's implied that it's there. There's 1 or 2 scenes showing him doing that, but we quickly move on to, you know, how he changes and becomes, the story at large, how he changes, how he gets pulled into this bigger heist at the British Museum, which is, I would say, the main driving element of the book. It's not, people think it's what the book is about, right? And I get that. Some of that is marketing, right? It's easy to say, oh, it's a supernatural heist. The supernatural heist is a framing device more than anything to tell the story of Shigidi and Norma kind of learning to understand themselves. And and also maybe love themselves as well.
2 things. One, I love the idea of praying to a nightmare god to give your enemies nightmares. I don't have any enemies that I know of, but I absolutely encounter people that I would love to send nightmares. Like, that would be such a great power to have, not to necessarily kill them, but just ruin their sleep for maybe a few nights in a row, you know?
Boon and a curse.
Yes, a boon and a curse. Also, I was going to say, with the heist, one of the things that I enjoyed was Shigidi's memories when he's in the museum and he's seeing all of the pieces that have been taken by colonizers, and it's bringing back all these memories, and he's having all these feelings. I really appreciated that because that's some real shit.
You know? Literally. Literally. I can tell you that. That's some real shit, literally, because some of that, I mean, not the memories, obviously.
Right.
But the feelings and a lot of that scene were pulled directly from my own experience, my own lived experience, because I used to live in the UK. I lived in the UK for 2.5 years. I did my master's degree there in London. And I had never been to the British Museum because my university was close to the Victoria and Albert Museum and the National History Museum. So I always went there instead. And then I moved to Malaysia. And about 6 years after moving from the UK to Malaysia, I went back to the UK it was a literary event. Actually, it was for the Kane Prize. I was nominated for the Kane Prize, which is an African literature event. So they flew us to London for the event. And one of the things that we did while we were there was visit the British Museum. And I mean, we all know about the British Museum. We know that it is full of things that were stolen during the colonial period of the British Empire, things that were taken from other cultures, not just African and Asian and South American, but also other European civilizations as well. They just took everybody's shit and said we're keeping it. I knew all of that, but it felt different when I saw it. And I usually love museums. I love seeing history and getting context and understanding things. But just being there was almost depressing in a way. And then I went to the Sainsbury Gallery, which is literally where the Brass Head of Obalufon, which I'll talk about a little bit more soon. But I went down to the Sainsbury's African Galleries, which is, of course, in the basement. And I just felt like I wanted to break everything out, like looking around at everything and being aware of the history and the context of all of them. It's like that one's from the punitive Benin expedition where they burned down the entire city. That one was stolen from, Yoruba land in 1938 during a so-called construction project. So sometimes they say like wisdom is misery and knowledge is pain and wisdom is misery. Sometimes I feel like that because I was just so aware of everything. I knew bits and pieces of all the history of everything there. And that I had to leave. I actually left early. And that's one of the things that made me want to write the entire book, was like that intensity of feeling of wanting to liberate all those objects from the British Museum was what I said, okay, we're doing a heist. Like, fuck it, we're doing a heist.
Yeah, I love that.
Because if I had done the heist in real life, I would be in prison and I would not be talking to you right now. So
did they catch the people who robbed the Louvre, by the way? I haven't.
Not yet. No, and I hope they.
See, you don't know. You might have gone away.
Doesn't matter. And they did it in 4 minutes. That's impressive.
Was it you? Tell us the truth.
Me? Nah. Maybe it was Shigidi.
I mean, you did say Perth is the most isolated city in the world.
Which would mean it would be very hard to sell. Yeah, so a lot of that comes from my own feelings of knowing the history of, that moment that Shigidi spends observing everything and kind of thinking back. It was almost exactly what happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, I like that you speak to just like the careless observation of these things. Like, oh, it's a trophy. We did Victorian Psycho last week. And one of the things that happens during Christmas in the book is that somebody has brought back a mummy from Egypt. And the whole thing is like the unwrapping of the mummy. Like, oh my gosh, we're like cutting it apart. And there's so much like violation that's happening in it. And they're not like, this was a person. It was special to somebody to like go through the process of preserving them. And they're just like, oh, look at this. I got it. So when I go to museums often, I feel the same way. I'm like, these things have a story and it's not the thing that you see on the little placard right next to it.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, it reminded me as well of a moment I had. I take my son to the Met once a month and he loves going there. He loves seeing everything. And last month, they had reopened a wing and they had all these exhibits. And I can't remember exactly where it was from. It was an exhibit that was from somewhere in Africa, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But they were talking about it and they said where it was from. And my son goes, "Why is it here?" And I was like, he's only 8. So we didn't get into it really. But I was like, you're on the right track, kid. You're on the right track. Why is it here? Why?
He's asking the right questions.
Yeah.
He's asking the right questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, just again, I said I was going to say a bit more about the Brass Head of Obalufon.
Yay.
It's a real thing
Is
in the real British Museum, yes. But the trick is it's not called the Brass Head of Obalufon. It is called the Bronze Head from Ife. And first of all, it's not bronze, it's brass. I'm an engineer. I know what the composition is. So I looked it up. I checked. It's actually it's
just
brass.
found it.
Mm-hmm.
So I flipped the name. And then they call it the Bronze Head from Ife because that's the place it was taken from. But actually, it is supposed to represent and supposed to be the representation of a king, a Yoruba king, Obalufon II. And that's why I changed the name. One, just because I also feel like it sounds cooler, Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon. It sounds a bit like an Indiana Jones adventure type.
It does, yeah. It's got that cadence.
Yeah, and that's I like that cadence, but also to also more accurately reflect knowledge of what it really is and who it really represents, as opposed to the colonial way of saying, mislabeling something and just saying where it's from.
Right.
As if
Kind of like
it
that
has
scene
no
in Black
connection
Panther.
to history of people. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where that comes from. And interesting thing about the bronze head from Ife, or, as I will call it now, the brass head of Obalufon. It's one of several objects that were retrieved from Nigeria. And by retrieved, I mean stolen. In the late between 1880 and 1940, more or less, there's a whole class of objects that were taken. And initially, when they were found, apparently the craftsmanship was so detailed that when they dated them and they realized that they must have been made in the 13th century, a bunch of European ethnographers and archaeologists were like, there's no way Africans made this. They must have learned these techniques, these metalworking techniques from some European civilization, maybe the Greeks. I was like, hello, how did the Greeks, tell me exactly when the Greeks arrived in West Africa to teach metalworking to my Yoruba ancestors again? Or maybe the easy answer is they just knew how to do stuff. But no, they were so hell-bent in their racist colonialist belief that they even went as far as proposing that, maybe this is the lost colony of Atlantis because Lagos is by the sea. So they were like, maybe
aliens. Like someone being very serious about it, saying
like the pyramid.
Aliens. Yeah, like it must have been aliens. Yeah. Like there's no way that Africans did this.
They would rather invoke, Atlantis, aliens, Bigfoot, anything except maybe Africans just knew how to do shit.
Right.
So
yeah,
and it rocks your entire generations of belief if you acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
Can't have that. So anything is better than that. Yeah. Anyway, so the book does touch on a few like heavy themes and topics, right? We've talked about, racism, colonization, cultural theft, capitalism, how it grinds your soul down. Because when we meet Shigidi, he's quite literally being ground down by his job. And he's just like, he doesn't like it, but he needs to do it to survive, which I feel like is relatable to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, it's about those things, but it's mostly a fun book, I think.
It is.
It's fun. I feel like it's like a love story. It's a love story. It's a heist. It's like a history.
It's also very sexy and not a weird like I can't listen to this out loud because I'll be embarrassed kind of way.
Yeah.
I made do you play Dungeons and Dragons by any chance?
No, I do not. I've always wanted.
It's really fun. You should try it.
Do you really want to? Because we might do a stream.
Yeah, we might actually do a Dungeons and Dragons stream. But I created a character based on Noma that I named Tanya. And I was obsessed. When I asked you your favorite character, I should have told you that I became fully obsessed with Noma. her history with her sister Lilith, the things she says about, you know, joining with Lucifer and like getting those bits of her backstory.
Yeah.
I loved, but the scenes where she's seducing, I was obsessed. I was like, I could see it like playing out in my mind, and I kept picturing her in all these different ways of just like, you know, I have the description, but you know, your mind kind of creates however you think they might look. And it made me want to ask you, because I would love for this to be a movie. I don't know if that's something you're interested in, but it's something.
Oh, me too.
I'm interested.
Oh, yeah. I
Very much.
You know who else I'm pretty certain is interested? My accountant.
Yeah,
that would be great. That would be great.
Tell them that you've got all the prayers right here.
I will begin a whole new campaign of harassment. I've already looked up your publisher and where they're located.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I did.
We're not joking. We did. We looked at everybody's pictures.
Do it.
We also pitched you to BookCon.
Yeah.
Next April. So I don't know if you're available next April, but we've already, as if we're your representatives, we literally went in person to their booth at Comic-Con and pitched. Mm-hmm. we said they didn't want to hear us, but like we told them all about the story, and we were like, he needs to be there. So we get a little obsessed.
That's okay. I appreciate your obsession. That's why we're having this discussion now. I'm having a great time. So thank you for being obsessed. Speaking of obsession, I also kind of got a bit obsessed with Norma as well. She's one of my favorites. I kind of like almost all my characters.
They're all your babies, right?
Yeah,
they're all my babies. But some people have told me the book should be called Shigidi and Norma and the Brass Head of Obalufon, because she's basically a co-protagonist. As she gets almost as much airtime as Shigidi, probably about the same if I did like a direct count. And that's because I also kind of became obsessed with her as a character as well. Essentially, so there's a few things about Norma that I feel like, I'm so glad you guys like her as a character. But there are a few things about her that I feel like some people miss. And depending on your cultural context, you might misinterpret certain things. So first of all, she's a succubus. So you're familiar with succubae and how they operate. Some people are not. So they're just like, why is this female character obsessed with sex? And it's like,
right.
You know what a succubus is? Sex is quite literally.
It's right there in the name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the first element. Once I made that decision that she was going to be a succubus, she had to act. Sex had to be an essential part of who she was, how she lived, how she gained sustenance.
It's her prime directive.
It's a prime directive, and she's also an independent contractor. So she's working outside of this capitalist framework I've set up. So she kind of actually enjoys her job. She likes being that person to an extent, right? There's some stuff we get to in the book. She's not 100% okay with it because the system keeps trying to make it hard for her to survive. But that's the thing, like sex is the source of her power. The second thing is I was also pulling on an extra, apart from her making her succubus, I'm pulling on an extra cultural lever. In Nigeria, when I grew up, there was a lot of Christian-based fear around women and female sexuality. And I grew up watching movies that one of them is called Nneka, the Pretty Serpent, and which in my head canon, Nneka and Norma are actually sisters because I chose that name because of that similarity. But if you look up the movie Nneka, the Pretty Serpent, it's literally about a woman who's like a evil entity that goes around sleeping with men, seducing them from their wives. She has sex with them and then she kills them. And in the end, she's defeated by the powers of Christianity. Some pastor prays and delivers this poor man that was seduced by her. And he goes back to his wife and she's defeated by the forces of good, whatever, right? And there were many movies like this. It was almost a whole subgenre unto itself. And they're all Christian-based messaging. And even as a child, to me, something didn't make sense about them. Because one, why is this woman just evil? You know,
Right.
with no sense of who she is, what she's doing this for, whether no, the whole framing was she's too sexy and that's evil, and she's tempting men and it's a bad thing. And it always just rubbed me the wrong way. So when I started writing, when I first had the idea for the character of Norma, I hadn't even added the succubus angle yet. To me, she was like one of those women from those movies, but I wanted to make her the hero of the story. So I flipped it and made her someone that was confident in doing that. And she's like, no, this is what I do to survive, you know. So that's my reasoning. I'm not just some evil thing doing this to you for whatever. And then I merged that with the idea of the succubus, partially when I had decided that I was going to add Shigidi, because I like the idea of paralleling a nightmare god that kills people in their sleep with the succubus that kills people after having sex with them, usually at night. It felt like they would, you know, kind of be in the same operating environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to add that cultural context for people that are missing that. That it is a lot of Norma's characterization is my personal rebellion against that kind of moralistic messaging of beware the sexy woman. Ooh, she will ruin your life.
Yeah. I love that.
She'll ruin your life. She'll just be awesome, man.
She'll just be awesome. I think there is something about that I like. What I liked about her, like being the person that I am, is like Noma's a really interesting invitation to soften into sexuality, but I like in the confidence of it, you know, to own it, to be accountable for it in a way that's like, no, it's not evil. Like I keep thinking about Jessica Rabbit, right? There's that line where she's like, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. You know, like this is who she is, and it's okay for her to be that. That doesn't mean that she's going to steal your man. That doesn't mean that she's this or that she's that. Like, this is just who she is. Take it or leave it. And anything that you're thinking is actually your projection. You're putting that onto her when she's like, this is who I am. This is what I do.
And
you want it.
And early in the book, I actually do call it out when Olorin's almost, you know, being the old guy. He's kind of judging her. It's like, I've known of you and I don't really like your methods. And she tells him why. Like, you know, you guys are all the same. You judge who I am, but what am I doing that's so different from what you do? You know, you're using what powers you have to stay alive. Same with me. Yeah. Game is game.
And I think the part where you're calling out, you know, going back to your wife after this experience, not you, your personal wife, but like, you know, these people having this thing is like with Audit, right? Like he meets her like early in the book, like it's a back alley thing. He gets seduced and then like mid-stroke, he's like, whoa, shit, I have a wife and kids. This is a terrible idea. And what happens? He runs back to religion in such, I'm not going to say it's an extreme way. I'm not going to make judgments of it, but like I had to look it up and I was like, oh, he did what? Those pictures were, there's a lot of dedication that I don't have to anything in that way, except for maybe this podcast. But it's good to see that.
Noma also made me think of the story of Jezebel, because you know, you hear about Jezebel and you instantly think horrible woman, whore, like, you know, all these things. And then when I actually like read about Jezebel, I was like, she didn't even do anything wrong.
No,
she was sexy and smart.
Yeah. And okay, she tried to convert her husband to her religion, but what's wrong with that? He was trying to convert her to his.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It's that kind of messaging. I was just now we're not having that. She is who she is, and and either enjoy it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like if you were like, I could see the walks of life that it would make you uncomfortable to read her, right?
Yeah.
But whether it makes you uncomfortable or not, like you can't deny that she's mesmerizing, and it's just like every scene that she's in. It's like I always feel like, you know, we get it from Shigidi's perspective, but like I'm as captivated by her as he is, and so was everybody else around. Like that scene where they meet Alistair, I'm just like, oh, look at her in her element. Like, I would love to be watching this from across the room. Like, even if I had nothing to do with them. Like, and I love how that girl at the bar was like, she scared her away. She's like, bitch, you run it. And if you don't fall back right now. Like, I love that. But she's just,
She's the best. Noma was definitely my favorite. Again, I made a whole D&D character based off of her. She's actually a tiefling, but she is also very sexy. And during one mission, she had to go undercover in a brothel.
That was such.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, and her mission was successful. You know, she did what she had to do, got what she needed to get. You know, we continue. But thinking about
Nat 20 on performance.
Yes. Back to, you know, me and Nikki, of course, both wanting to see this now as a film, like desperately. Do you have you thought about it? Like, do you have like a dream cast for it?
So, yes. Also, I don't know how much I'm supposed to say officially, but let's just say there is a non-zero chance that it might be adapted.
Okay.
Interested parties they've said stuff. Let me put it that way.
That's awesome.
Nothing officially announced, but
yeah, I love a non-zero chance.
Yeah, non-zero chance. Now, in terms of an actual cast, I have thought about it, and I'm just quickly pulling up because I sent a note to someone that wanted to do some art about this. And essentially, okay, so if I were doing dream casting, I don't know how much dream casting. There's many things that go into choosing who, you know, would represent the character, but I kind of picture Shigidi as a bit like Mike Coulter. You know Mike Coulter from Luke Cage?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a bit Luke Cage in Luke Cage, right? The show. So it's that kind of look. It's the shaved head, a bit of a beard. At least in the version after he meets Norma, right? His changed version.
Right.
So big, strong, muscular, but you know, shaved head, a bit of a beard. Just a tough looking, very dark skinned, sexy looking dude. So yeah, that's probably who I would be casting, or someone in that looks that way.
Looks that way. Yeah.
For Norma, I can see many different characters playing her, but if I had to pick, I'd probably go with maybe Teyana Paris.
Ooh.
Hold on.
Maybe, or maybe even Janelle Monáe, to be honest.
Oh.
I kind of mesmerizing in a way.
You know who I kind of pictured her as sometimes? Jodie Turner-Smith.
Okay. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see
I often pictured her with short hair. I don't know why.
Me too. Like the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I know that she like to describe her hair like sometimes, but like for me, she was like a bad bitch with a baldish head. Like just being able to command the room anywhere she walked in. It's just so sexy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, in most of the scenes where I describe her, she has long hair.
Yeah.
Or
like she had an afro,
curls.
Head curls.
Yeah, curls. Yeah. That's usually what I'm picturing. But I mean, she can rock short hair. She can do anything she wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she will look sexy doing it. Like
like I get like Grace Jones energy from her.
Yeah. Yeah, like, definitely the energy.
Attracted and terrified somehow.
Yeah.
And you don't know which one to feel.
Yeah. So there's definitely like a sense of danger that's underlying it. And like that combination is thrilling. You know, I read a paper a long time ago and it was talking about just like fear and arousal. And like physiologically, if you measure them on a chart, it's the same thing.
Yes.
Right? So like my heart's racing, the breathing and all of this stuff. They look the same.
I love that you brought this up because that is the exact reason that I put Shigidi and Norma together. Mm-hmm. That is quite literally because I had written 2 separate short stories about them. I had written a short story about Shigidi and I had written a short story about Norma. And I wanted to write a 3rd story. And that 3rd story is it eventually becomes the middle of the book, right? The scene where they meet is in that story. But the reason I thought that they would make a great pairing was exactly that. Fear and arousal are intimately linked in the human brain, in our biology, in everything. And Norma is basically, her power is based on sex, arousal, sexuality, sensuality. And Shigidi's entire power base is fear and nightmares. And I was just like, but they're kind of overlapping and almost the same thing. And they both usually come to people at night, usually when they're sleeping or having sex, both the things that you do in a bed, which is why they literally meet fighting over a character on a bed. Yeah. Right? Like that whole entire fight scene takes place in a bedroom above a bed because of that connection. So I just love that you brought that up, because that's exactly the same spark that was in my head several years ago when I first made that decision.
Love it.
I'm so excited. I'm going to read it again. This is what everybody should read. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to tell my mom. My mom has been taking book recommendations for me seriously these days.
My mom will read the Bible. She would be very offended by Noma.
My mom would end up dressing as her for Halloween.
I would love to be Noma for Halloween. I don't know how I'd explain that I'm Noma, but
I've been a succubus for Halloween 2 or 3 times. So
it's close enough.
Yeah.
Dress up as a succubus. Realistically, all you need are the wings and
a leather sexy
dress. Norma is she's actually an easy Halloween costume.
I picture her in a leather bustier with the wings coming out the back.
It works. It works. Yeah, it's an easy costume.
Yeah, I need some wings.
But,
I gotta do a Noma cosplay.
Yeah, I was just going to say I love that we're talking about this now, right as the paperback in the US is coming out, and it's I've talked to a few other people about Shigidi. The book has been out for about 2 years now. And I've gotten questions like, so when's the sequel? I've been working on another book, which hopefully will be out soonish. Nothing officially announced yet. But now that is done, my mind keeps coming back to Shigidi and Norma again. I'm getting excited about them again. I'm like, I think I'm about ready to jump back in and write that sequel I had in mind and kind of give them another big adventure.
Now that the paperback is coming out, and that's November 4th. Do I have that right? So now the paperback is coming out. It's gonna be a whole revival, because the people who didn't want to buy hardcover books are gonna see the paperback and be like, "Oh, I can manage this." And it's not a daunting read. It's something you can read. It's not it's not 1,500 pages or something where you have to commit a lot of time. So
I also do not like huge daunting reads, to be honest. This is another echo of my childhood trauma, right? It's I like books that are relatively short and self-contained, and you can we're done. Because if it's a big long book, it's also likely to have sections that drag. It's also likely to have prequels, because the author has been thinking about this for a while, so they've probably written some side books and prequels, sequels, extra stuff, and I'm just like,
George,
I can't go through that. Yes,
we're particularly traumatized by the series.
By George,
specifically George.
It's where George came in and talk about Comic-Con, because he was there.
Yes, he was at Comic-Con, and we talked the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is coming soon and is unfinished. A Song of Ice and Fire is also unfinished. And of course, Nikki and I decided to start Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which is also unfinished. And
the first
when I started it, I thought it was a trilogy. I didn't know I'd be 4 or 5 books in and then find out there's going to be 5 more.
I didn't know either. I had no idea. I just knew that my friend had. Like, I read Game of Thrones. I read the whole series in a year, and then I was so burnt out that I had to read like nonfiction. But then afterwards, I was ready, and I was like, "Yo, I got to read something." And my friend handed me The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and I've been obsessed ever since. So, like, to that end, he does finish his thoughts. He finishes multiple thoughts in multiple series.
I don't know how long
but, like,
I live.
that's okay. I'm gonna reread Stormlight Archive again and again and again.
Well, one of the things I do appreciate with Shigidi is it's not a hard sell because there are not 14 books
Yeah.
to try to get someone to commit to.
Yeah.
And there never will be.
That's a shot at Wheel of Time. Just saying, I'm traumatized
and
by
there
that.
never will be.
No, there never will be.
Unless, you know, we all have our price. If someone came to me and was like, here's $2 million. You write 15 Shigidi.
No, you got to charge more than that.
Yeah, it's worth
it.
You
sure?
More. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, fine.
Because then you got the option deals, like, you know, work with Marvel Studios and just make it like, you want TVs, you want merch.
Yep.
I accept all your
little brass head pins.
Capitalism.
I actually do have little brass head pins.
You do? Oh,
like, I have a t-shirt, so that's from the hardcover design, and we made pins with these. So we ran out of them. They came out, they made them as part of the hardcover release. And you know what? I think I have the extra at home. So if I ever make it to the US, I will give you guys one, but then you have to share it. I think.
Okay.
Switch back and forth.
It's not enough going around.
Yeah.
We should have probably made merch for like the paperback cover because it's
not
so
too late.
It's a completely different design.
It is.
Which I kind of like, to be honest.
I love it.
I'm not sure which do you
I like them both.
The old one or
me I love too. I love the coloring in both of them. Like, it's so fun. It's so attractive. It's like so attractive.
Yeah.
I have to sit with it to decide which I like more.
I feel like
it's easy to like the first one more because it's the first one. It's what introduced me. But then it's easy to like the new one more because it's new. I haven't seen this before. You know.
Yeah, I think it's new, and it's also it gives after Afrofuturism. But I think it also, like, if you have people who are like, oh, this might be too ethnic, if they see like an artifact on the cover, like, you might be able to trick them, like, oh, what is this? You know, obviously, but like, oh, okay, this is like, this is so cool.
I mean, I went into it not knowing what it was about. I just saw the cover and thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I saw the name on a list and I had a picture of the cover and I was like, that looks cool. I'm going to add it in the library. And I just, you know, I'm a library girl. I just added it to my holds list and then it popped up and I had completely forgotten what it was. But I was like, oh, this book is available from the library. Looks interesting. I put it in my holds list. Must have been for a reason. So, you know, great cover. Great cover.
You know, it makes me want to ask you two questions. Like, one thing, when you were talking about like picking up these books from the man who's selling the books, like on the street and stuff, is when I don't do this anymore, but when I was younger and I picked up a book that looked interesting, I would read the first sentence and I would read the last sentence. And I stopped reading the last sentence because sometimes I would remember it if I really, really liked it, and then it would spoil it for me. So don't do that. But is there a series that you liked from top to bottom that you're like, oh, I might not ever do it again, but where maybe you picked up a book the second one, you're like, oh no, I need to read this. Where you're like, no.
So a lot of this is colored by childhood trauma. Some of these memories,
isn't it always?
I have blocked a lot of these memories, and many of these books, you know, some of them I don't even remember what they were, because you just pick up stuff from the guy and then you read it, and sometimes you never even saw what the cover looked like because it might have been torn off. Because sometimes they were selling books that were discarded by the publisher, like excess stock, right? And I think they usually rip off the covers of those. So yeah, it's very hard to tell. Yeah,
I love that this guy exists across the diaspora.
Yeah,
I've seen this guy in Harlem and I've seen this guy in Jamaica too. So like across the diaspora.
He's in Brooklyn.
Yes,
The
like,
little was on the subway, like in the
yep, they
subway.
lay out the
tunnels and stuff.
blanket. They just put
Yep.
out the books, and like
Yeah.
I've seen some where I'm like, oh, I've read that. I wonder if they have anything else I would like. But
Mhm.
anyway, I just love that, like, that is just
That's
across the diaspora.
to be
Canon.
honest. Now you've given me a great idea for like a story of this, like it's almost a spirit. It's a spirit of books, and he just appears in random locations, and he has just the right book for just the right person
Mhm.
wherever he is, and there's a whole multiverse of like
Yeah.
the book guy.
That's
Reminds me of
exactly
Wit.
Wit, yeah.
Mhm.
That's exactly who would lure me into the back of a van.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I don't really remember a lot of those series I read when I was younger, so it makes it hard to say. Recently though, I did read a series, and recently is relatively it's not that recent, but recent-ish. The fifth season, the Broken Earth trilogy.
Yes,
It might
one of my
be
favorites.
it
They're
might
right
be
there.
it might be one of the first series I actually finished in the last decade, or
Wow.
actually read, because usually once I see a book is part of a series, I'm out, unless the author has written them in such a way that each adventure is almost a standalone.
Yeah.
Then I can get behind it, kind of like the Atrocity Archives with Charles Stross. Yes, it's a big thing, but each book, you can read each book by itself. Or actually, if you like Shigidi, you'd probably also like The Library of the Dead by T.L.
Pull
Huchu.
up my Goodreads.
I know. I'm literally typing things in there right now.
By who?
There are five books in the series, but each one is kind of written more or less as a standalone adventure from the main character, Rapamoyo. Except right at the end, the fourth and the fifth book are more directly connected than the others, because he's kind of trying to wrap things up.
Mhm.
But yeah, individually they work as standalone. So that's usually what I read. But the Broken Earth trilogy, I went in knowing what I was getting into, that it was a whole series, and that you had to read the three books to get the full story, and each book is directly linked to the next one. So
That is
am
a
I in
book.
or out? And I went in, and I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
So-
He picked up second book and he was like, "Hello, little enemy."
Yes, literally.
I was gonna say that's another book that, like, I bullied Nikki as soon as I read it. I was like, Nikki, you
Yeah.
gotta get on this. And then we ended up going to see her, and we got all three signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to bring my baby, and he yelled during her whole talk.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was a little bit
That's cool.
embarrassing, but she was very kind about it.
yeah, and I mean, look, the book is about a mother-daughter relationship, so I'm sure she understands.
Yeah.
Dealing with having a child there with you it's on theme.
I would love to see the two of you guys have a conversation.
I would too.
Oh my God.
It almost happened, and I'm so sad about it, because we were both supposed to be in Spain this year for a convention. It's called the Celsius Convention. I don't know if you've heard of it. She was supposed to be there, and I was invited as well. And I actually took my copy of the fifth season, first book only, of course, all the way to Spain, expecting to get signature from her, and then hopefully like catch her in the hotel lobby and we could like chat and whatever, right? But she ended up having to cancel because of, actually, I think there was a combination of things. It had some stuff to do with, borders and concern about what was happening in the US at the time, and also childcare and logistics and a whole bunch of stuff. So she ended up canceling last minute, and I was very sad about that, because the book had traveled literally halfway across the world.
Well, when you see her next time, you can tell her the story and she'll sign it.
I will.
And you got I would just, wow. Like these two world building brains talking to each other just to me sounds like a fantastic
I'd just be
conversation.
sitting there like this the whole time.
I appreciate that you're putting me in the same category as N.K. Jemisin. I really appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. She's operating at a level,
She's definitely
game recognized game.
Yeah, I have to say though, you really became an instant favorite for me. And that's why after I read Shigidi, I was like, I have to see what else he has.
For the last few weeks, this is all Tanya has been talking about.
It is.
Like she was so excited for tonight.
It's like it's a little bit ridiculous. Like I won't stop you. I won't go that far.
That's okay. A little light.
So far and so isolated.
But I will stalk your publisher. So
yeah. I hope they're watching.
Yeah.
I hope so too. I will
we tagged them.
I'll actually share the recording with them. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah,
please do. Yeah, we love good conversations. We love good books. We love books that, one of the reasons that Wine and an Empty Stomach exists in the first place is because we realized, we talked about this when we first met, is that we weren't encountering enough books from the diaspora, and we wanted to know more. We wanted to learn about these authors and be able to tell other people about them, because we're both Afro-Caribbean heritage, and like the stories, like this, up until I started reading a lot of these books, like the stories I knew were just things that my grandmother or mother and talked about. They weren't written down, and so to be able to have access to that now is just really, really fun.
And also, I think both Nikki and I grew up reading fantasy from mainly just white male authors.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, at least for me, I don't know for Nikki, but it wasn't until adulthood that I started being able to find, like I said, I love mythology, but it was only Roman and Greek. That's all I ever got. And so
same.
Once I started seeing these other pantheons, I was like, wait a minute. What is this?
Why have I so limited?
And it just makes you want to seek out more. And then you do if you like this, then you might like this. And you saw my bedroom bookshelf. It's like
on Zoom, not in person.
Well, clarify that. Yeah, that was actually my headboard that you saw. Like I have a small apartment and I ran out of book space, and so now my headboard is a bookshelf. And my bedroom window is also a bookshelf now. I don't get any light. It was a sacrifice I was willing to make.
Was it really though?
I mean,
Tanya never has lights on.
You do what you have to do.
You do.
Also, I mean, I'm mildly concerned for your safety if your headboard is a bookshelf, because I mean, the books could come down on you.
They're all paperback.
No, they're not all paperback.
Got like their first edition hard copies.
Yeah. Actually, I moved them from the headboard to the window shelf so that my younger son can't reach them, because I'll sell him if he tears up one of my first editions.
Man, it's crazy what you'll do for a book. I had to be out in the city a month ago for whatever reason. And I remember I was going to walk back to the train. And I was like, oh, yeah, there's a Trader Joe's. I really have to get some food. And I used to get some groceries. And as I was walking, I remembered that there was a brand new bookshop that was all horror. And it was 15-minute walk in the other direction. And I texted Tanya. I was like, I guess I'm going to be hungry because I'm good at food. And that's what I did. I don't even remember what I ate for dinner that night, because I went and I was like, books. And I was going to buy a bunch, but I only bought the one for Donut for his birthday.
I still need
to
I
showed restraint.
I still need to go.
Yeah, it's all horror books, and they don't have it by author, they have it by type of horror. It's like body horror, psychological horror, like
I like that.
Zombie horror. It was so fun.
Fun. You know what bookstore? I wonder if they carry your book while they it's called the Lit Bar, and it's in the Bronx. It's a Black woman-owned bookstore that has a wine bar. And because it's Black woman-owned, you can find a lot of Black fantasy authors in there. And so I wonder if she carries your book. And if she doesn't, you obviously know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
I am going to check right now, because that sounds like a place I would love.
It's the Lit really
Bar,
nice.
I'm hoping to get to the US at some point in the next year or two, depending on what happens,
when
in the larger framework of not necessarily book con. I'm thinking more, I'm Nigerian, so crossing any border is a high risk maneuver for me.
This is
crossing with a Nigerian passport is always a high risk maneuver, despite the fact that I travel around quite frequently. It's a high difficulty, and the US is
not the best country to travel to.
I passed through once on my way to Mexico, and I was like, okay.
No, I
We'll
don't
see.
blame you. I don't blame you.
So you just have to
But
come here.
I'm hoping to do that, and I would love to pop in. There's kind of like three things I love in life most of the time. I mean, my wife, obviously, but booze, books, boxing.
Boxing.
The three B's. Yeah. Most of my workouts, I go to a boxing gym. I like to train.
You guys can spar. You and Tanya can spar.
I went to a boxing gym for years, and the main reason I stopped is because I was one of only a few women, and the trainers were very creepy. So I had to, it got really weird in there. Boxing gyms can be very shady if you're a woman, but it's a great exercise though. It's a great workout.
It is. It is a great workout. That's one of the things I love about it. I also used to watch boxing a lot with my dad. But yeah, the three B's: booze, books, and boxing. And this bookstore has two of my three B's. Right? It has booze and books.
They have like big chairs. You just buy your book, you get a glass of wine, and they have like you can get like a cheese plate and just like sit back. I got to get Nikki. Nikki and I live in different boroughs. I don't know if you know New York geography, but we are not close to each other.
We're on different islands.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally, we're on different islands. Yeah.
So that's why we do things virtually. So I've been trying to get her to come up here to go there.
I mean, to be fair, it's like a 35 to like 45-minute commute, but 35 to 45 minutes. I mean, in New York, you don't even really think about that.
But you have to change trains.
I have to change trains. And so we met yesterday in the city actually for a book event at the library.
Yes. It was a library Halloween costume party, a literary themed costume party hosted by Tim Gunn, the fashion guy.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. We dressed up. I did not dress up as Noma, but I felt very Noma while I was there. Yeah. I dressed up as the Raven from, Edgar Allan Poe, but it was very Noma vibes with the feathers, low cut dress, corset, whole thing going on. I felt very Noma. I felt
it's Noma adjacent. So it works.
Absolutely.
Noma inspired for sure.
Inspired.
I was also going to say, just to go back to your point about the diaspora in general, that is one thing I love, and it's kind of why I was excited to talk to you guys, because I feel like there is so much knowledge, information, history in the African diaspora that is kind of fragmented. Right. Like we know that there is more, but we don't know what it is because it's not in the broader public consciousness. It's not in broad media. For example, like you talked about mythology, like Nigerian mythology, there's so much. Even using the term Nigerian mythology doesn't make sense because Nigeria is a made-up country. The British just drew a squiggly line around a region in West Africa and said, this is ours now. But within that area, there are maybe 250 different ethnicities. And I'm pulling from Yoruba mythology, which is, my culture. That's my tribe. That's what I'm most familiar with. But there's much more. And then you go to other countries, which I tried to do in Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon. I mentioned, I imply that Shigidi has worked with spirit companies in other parts of Nigeria. From the southeast, for example, or I reference myths and legends from Ethiopia, Egypt, and all other places, even Southeast Asia, which is where I used to live.
Oregon. I was going to say,
Morrigan is directly pulled from Hindu mythology, and you mentioned you looked up the Kavadi sacrifice that people make during Taipu Sam festival. I've been there. I've seen it.
Really? You've seen it? Okay, because I my favorite thing about there's lots of authors who I really love, but I always love when I come across a word or a practice or something that I've never heard before. Because I highlight them, I add them to my personal dictionary, and I saw it a couple of times what the fuck is this? And then I Googled and I was like, oh, but you've been there.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Can you explain what it is for people?
It's pretty intense. Okay, so essentially what we're referencing is there's a scene in Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon where Noma seduces this Hindu expat right? He lives in Singapore, but he's of South Asian descent. So he worships the Hindu deities. And she seduces him in Nigeria, but he manages to escape. So she doesn't take his soul. But Norma's like, I don't do business like that. So I will get your soul eventually because we need to reconcile the books. So later on, when he escapes, he goes back home and he tries to gain protection from her because he's had this supernatural encounter, and he leans fully into his religion. Mm-hmm. And one of the aspects of that religion is they worship a god, Murugan, who is essentially the god of war, so to speak. So that's a god that people come to when they want protection. And there is a practice in certain parts of Asia, but the one I'm referring to specifically is in Malaysia. The Hindu community there every year have a ceremony called Taipusam, where you basically you show your dedication to Murugan, and then you can ask for favors, for protection, for whatever. And the way they do this is they start at very early in the morning, like 4 a.m., and they march barefoot in a procession from a river to a temple. And this temple it has the largest statue of Murugan in the world. It's painted in gold. It's not made of gold, but the statue is painted with gold. So it's very impressive. And at that temple, there's like a flight of 400 stairs. So you do this long 15-kilometer trek from the river up the stairs with your sacrifice that you want to give to Murugan. And when you get to the top, then you can pray for something. And the idea is the greater your sacrifice, the more you're suffering on this procession, the more likely Murugan can grant what you're asking for, or the more you can ask, essentially. So people do all sorts of things during Taipusam to show their dedication. It can be as simple as carrying a bowl of milk on your head for the 12 to 15 kilometers and then up the stairs. Some people go way extreme and they actually put spikes into their skin. They use those spikes to carry things. So they're literally hanging things off of hooks and spikes on their body, and they're bleeding and they're dancing the entire time. The year I went, there was a dude that was pulling an ox cart out of hooks in his back. And he did this for like 12 kilometers from a river to the temple. And I have no clue how he did this. His family was, his entire family was surrounding him because they kind of like to give a bubble so people don't bump into him because he gets chaotic. But you could see that he looked like he was almost in a bit of a trance. So he was having a full-on religious experience. But I don't even think I could do that with just my arms. And I go to the gym like 3 times a week. But pulling an ox cart with hooks in his back and bleeding the entire way. So essentially, this character after encountering Norma, realizes that he needs protection from a powerful entity like her, and he does something like this as a sacrifice to Murugan to ask for a favor, which is why Murugan shows up when Norma comes for him. But it does not go as planned.
It does not. Gosh, I can't imagine. I would love to have faith in something like that. I can't
me
think
too.
of anything
I don't think there's
hooks in my back.
There's nothing I believe in. There's nothing I believe in that much. But all of this to say is I pulled from a lot of different mythologies when I was writing Shigidi and Brass Head of Obalufon. And one of the things I want to really lean into with this sequel is to lean into the African diaspora beliefs, and to kind of show the fragmentation and the transmutation that has occurred in the core Yoruba pantheon, and how that's reflected differently in different Afro-Caribbean, Afro-American, Afro-Brazilian cultures. So that's just kind of sneak peek at some of there will always be globe-trotting because it's a globe-trotting, love story, adventure kind of thing. So for the sequel, there will be that, but we're definitely going to a bunch of places in the African diaspora.
Yeah, I really love that. Something that sorry, Tanya.
No, I was just saying that's really exciting because one of the things I thought about, two things I thought about, when you mentioned Eshu Elegba, I thought of Anansi because I grew up with Anansi stories, and Anansi's a trickster and does all these things, and those stories were like a huge, huge part of my childhood, and I've started reading them to my sons as well. But also with Shigidi, it made me think of the myth of the Sukuyan, who steals the baby's breath. She takes off her skin and goes, and because it was used to explain away babies dying in their sleep. You needed an explanation for it, and so Shigidi reminded me of that. And as well as with Freddy Krueger, that Wes Craven had actually pulled from a series of news stories where there was a community where these men kept dying in their sleep, and they couldn't understand why. And like the idea of Freddy Krueger kind of came from that. And, and like you said, across the world, the people try to come up with these explanations for why people are dying in their sleep, whether it's an adult or a child or a baby or whatever. But yeah, like Yoruba mythology is completely new to me. I did not grow up anything about it.
It's
and I mean purely from fantasy novels. Like, I'll be honest, it's purely from fantasy novels that I've.
But I will say, you're familiar with Papa Legba.
Yes.
The idea of Papa Legba is a variant of Eshu Elegba or Elegba. Like, that's where the name comes from.
Yeah.
So there are elements. So these are the kinds of things I want to explore and like draw the connections to as well. The elements of Yoruba mythology that have reinvented themselves as they've gone to different places, different parts of the world, especially the Americas, but also elsewhere.
Yeah. I think that I've said this actually a lot recently, just about like kind of the limitations of a binary system of belief, right? If you have Christianity, there's like God and there's the devil. And there's no space. Like, I love reading about like the Orisha and other belief systems, because suddenly there's like room for everybody to get it. Like there's a god of mischief, there's a god of like money, there's like all these, like with Greek mythology, which we're all familiar with. Shout out to Edith Wharton for that mythology book, which I read cover to cover a million times as a kid, because I was like, oh wow, this is so cool, but never having been exposed to it until I got older. I like mystical stuff like tarot and things. And I was telling my sister, I was like, man, it would be really cool to like have a tarot deck with like people who look like me. And for my birthday, she got me an African Goddess Rising deck. And it's all of these goddesses from Africa, and for the diaspora, like, or people who are really like Tituba and these things. And I'm like, oh, this is how I'm learning about. So there are names that I'm seeing in your book and in other places that I'm like, I've got that. Her element is fire. She's like goddess of rivers, blah, 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 blah. And for me, that's a really fun way for me to have access to it, and an entry point into experiencing these, this new pantheon.
See, people
and ancient pantheons, it's like ancient. Yeah.
And like, as we're talking about these things making it across the diaspora, it's like in Jamaica, it's like variations of exactly the same gods, and it's like our ancestors carried those stories and continued them for so long, and I think that is so cool and so amazing. And it's another thing that really excites me, reading these stories from just different parts of the African diaspora, and just seeing how much of it is really connected.
Yeah.
I've also really enjoyed reading. Not too much I haven't read a lot of fantasy from the Caribbean. I have read a lot of speculative fiction, quote unquote, which is more literary leaning fiction with speculative elements. And I can see a lot of those tendrils and connections. And that's something I really want to explore, because there's so much. There's so much there that is not known, and it's very cool. It's not, sometimes when you talk about this, people feel like you're lecturing them. It's like, oh, I need to learn African mythology for my diversity points or whatever. It's like, no, I'm just trying to tell you cool stuff.
It's so fun. There's
so much cool stuff.
There's a book that came out earlier this week by this author. It's debut author. I'm reading it off of my Goodreads because I checked it out. And her name is Harmonia Rosales. She's from Chicago, but she's like Afro-Cuban background. And she's got this book called Chronicle of Ori. And it talks about like African myths that she learned through her father. And she goes from like the origin, like all the way through. And it's been a really... I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like a completely like narrative structure, because everything is like, oh, here's this. I mean, similar to Edith Wharton's mythology, we're like, oh, here's this god and their story. Here's this god and their story. And I can see that all the strings are eventually going to tie together to like give to be like, oh, this is it. But I recommend it because it's brand new and it's her first book.
Okay.
And you know, it's exactly what we're talking about. Chronicles of Ori. Yeah, I'm going to drop the Goodreads in here.
Yeah in Yoruba mythology, Ori means the head, but it's also a reference to the spirit.
Yep, that's what she's using it.
And your kind of destiny as well. So Ori can be used in different contexts. Actually, that's where the word Orisha also relates to that. It's like the owner of the head, or the owners of the destiny, or the owners of spirit.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely all that,
because that's what she says. You know, like there was this. I forgot who the one who was creating the Ori was called, but she's like, they weren't giving it to people. Like all the destinies were hidden and they were kept, and they were called Oris. And then when they came together, made humans, they started gifting them these individual destinies, and yeah. Super fun.
Well, before we go, we have to ask two things. The first thing is to ask you what you're reading. But the second thing we do is called a boon and a curse. Okay. Where you make a wish and we grant it. But of course, it comes cursed. So
magic always comes with a price.
Yeah. So first, are you reading anything fun right now?
I am. So I am currently reading a book called The Republic of Memory by Mahmoud El Sayed. It's not out yet. It's coming out in
it's like
April. Yeah, people send me things. It's coming out, I think, in April or May next year. And it is very, very cool. So Mahmoud is Egyptian. So he's African as well, African Arab.
Lest you forget,
he's like some people do. Some people do this. You say Egypt, and they somehow think it's part of Europe, which I don't. Anyway, people have their biases, but
George Bush will pay for his crimes.
Yeah. So the Republic of Memory is really cool. It's a science fiction story that's set on a starship. A generation ship that's going to settle a new planet. And it's not really about that. It's about the social structure on the ship, because this ship is a generation ship. It's going to take them centuries to get there. So several generations will live and die on the ship. And they've built up their own culture. There's like 5 main groups. They segregated themselves by language because they thought it was more egalitarian rather than doing it based on nationality or ethnicity or whatever. So you basically you bunk with the people you speak the same language as, but that has actually just led to its own kind of, I won't say it's not nationalist systems, but they've developed their own in groups and out groups and social stratifications in there. And then there's people in charge of the ship that are basically the government called administration. There is a rebellion fomenting because not everybody is happy with the way the ship is being run. Not everybody believes in the ship's mission. They are carrying with them in cryogenic stasis some of their ancestors that first set out on the voyage. Not everybody believes that the ancestors should just be there consuming resources when, the ship, they're running a tight ship and everything's being rationed. So you can kind of tell, like, there's rebellion fomenting. The easiest way to describe it to me is I would call it like the Arab Spring in space.
Love that.
Which is great. But then it's not just it's not just great in the plot. I love books that merge a great plot with a great literary flourish, right? Like what N.K. Jemisin did with the 5th season, right? With point of view, by playing with point of view, by the time you get to the end of the book, you're like, oh, I see what you were doing there. This book does
and then
something.
you have to reread it.
Yeah, well, I didn't, but
Oh, it's so good on reread. I promise.
Oh yeah.
The prologue, I'm telling you. At least go back and read the prologue.
Fair. And then, but in the Republic of Memory, the cool literary flourish that he's using here is he actually has an invented language that he almost teaches you how to read as you're reading the book, because it's because the different groups of people are segregated by language. The people the people organizing the rebellion across different groups, they use a kind of pidgin language that's a blend of all the other languages. And he's kind of made up this language using a mix of real world languages. So there's bits of Chinese, bits of Arabic, bits of Malay, bits of English, bits of Spanish. And it's completely made up. It's not combined in a very specific, it's combined in the way that most pidgin or Creole languages evolve. Like people use the easiest way to pass meaning, right? By just joining words together. And he's done that, and he's made up a system for the book. And as you're reading it, characters use it little by little, little by little. And you eventually get to a chapter where you're like, I'm reading a language I didn't know was a thing. But the whole chapter is in that language. So when you get to that,
I'm gonna have to go to work and see if they have advanced copies of this book.
Yeah. So the Republic of Memory, like I said, Arab Spring in space, very cool linguistics elements. It deals with memory, it deals with social structure. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. And yeah, I'm about almost halfway through. So far so good.
That's
I would recommend
14th is expected.
May 14th. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's the book I'm reading right now. And a boon and a curse. So I can make a wish.
You make the wish, and we will
what are the boundaries of this wish? Can I wish for like $1 million? Because that would be nice.
Yeah, like you wish for more money than that if you're gonna wish for money. Because $1 million is
gonna come with a curse.
Okay.
I wish for $1 million tax free. Okay, it's tax free in the States, but
okay, fair enough. No, I'm not going to wish for money. I just wanted to test the parameters of this. I am familiar with jinn and how when you ask a jinn for something, they can twist it. So I'm in the spirit of my upcoming novel. I am going to wish for more. I'm going to wish for more community among people in the world, the entire planet. I wish we were more.
Now I feel bad.
Curse that, right?
I wish we were more connected to each other, that we understood each other, that we listened to each other more, and that we worked towards goals together. I feel like the human race is kind of underachieving right now, just as a group, because we are so divided and so hyper-focused on our individual selves and our individual desires and wishes. We could be doing so much more. So yeah, that's my wish. My wish is for more connection.
I have the perfect curse for this. You will get that connection. However, every time you eat food outside of your own culture, you'll have an allergic reaction that you can't quite place. You're never sure exactly what it is. So you're stuck only eating food from home, despite this connection all of the time.
So,
man, that's tough.
Yeah. My curse is that you'll have all this connection, but somehow, some way, you're going to get stuck with a nickname that you can never escape. And people everywhere are always going to mispronounce it in the worst ways.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that. The food, to be honest with you, the food one is the worst because I love food from so many other cultures. Like I'm from Nigeria, my wife is from Spain, but we both love Asian food. Southeast Asian, East Asian, South Asian, Indian, Japanese, everything, Vietnamese. We almost always eat Asian food. So I'm basically going to have to regress back to eating only Nigerian food. Oh my God, I'll be missing out on so much. Like I love Nigerian food, but there's so much else.
Yeah.
Yikes. That's a rough one. Okay. I'll take it. I'll take one for the team, for the entire human team. I'll take it.
What a sacrifice.
Or that you can cook the things from other cultures, but it will always taste like the food from your culture, no matter how you prepare it.
Oh my God. What even is that? I'm just trying to picture like Vietnamese banh mi that tastes like jollof rice. What? That's terrible.
I love it.
It's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Wait, before we leave, where can people follow you, find out more? Where can your publicist and your... I'm sorry. Go for it.
Yeah. No. So find me online. I'm almost everywhere at W Talabi, not at Wole Talabi. There is someone else that has at Wole Talabi. And he unfortunately gets a lot of messages that I'm sure he does not understand. I am at WTALABI on the ghost of Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, all the places. I also have a website, wtalabi.wordpress.com, which will soon be changing to wtalabi.com or wtalabi.net. We're working on the website. You can find my books in most places where good books are sold online. Obviously, it would be great if people grabbed the new paperback version of Shigidi. That would be awesome. Make my publisher happy and my agent as well. And like I said, I'm finalizing my second novel. So announcements to follow. If you follow me on my website on wtalabi.wordpress.com, subscribe to get updates, and you will know once the new book is announced, and you can get excited. And then I can tell you what it's about. But for now, under wraps.
Yay, yeah. That's exciting.
Very exciting.
You should do Secret Santa for your Christmas party, Tanya, and only use your books, Wole. We'll just wrap them up in like make them different sizes, and like everybody just gets to take home a book.
Yeah, there's currently like 4 versions of Shigidi right now.
See,
there's the UK cover, there's the paperback cover, there's the US hardcover. Yeah.
So you've just given me something else to collect. I already told you my apartment is too small for this.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Wole, for joining us. I appreciate it so much, and also for joining us at the time that you're joining us. With this time difference is nightmarish.
It's all good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for harassing Nikki to read the book. Thank you for harassing people in general. I appreciate your harassment of the general public.
Yeah.
Keep harassing my publisher. I appreciate that. Just harass people.
Email us a good email, and we'll just I'm gonna get right from every single email address we have.
I'm gonna get right to the edge of restraining order with your publisher, like just before.
Perfect.
And she knows the legal bounds, so.
All right. Well, thank you again. That is the end of our stream. Good night, everybody.
For previous episodes, find us at thousandeyespodcast.com. On YouTube, you can find us at 1,000 Eyes in One Podcast. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are 1,000 Eyes in One on Instagram and Facebook, 1,000 Eyes Pod on Blue Sky, and if you're interested in our Speculative Fiction Book Club, follow Wine on an Empty Stomach on Instagram.